How's it going, guys? So today we're gonna go over 2D UI in 3D space. It's pretty cool. You could use this for a lot of things, like display panels on some kind of tech or something like that. So right now I could like type in and put it over there, plus the value of this H slider. You have text. Saw the video already playing. I turned the volume down on this a little bit because that's not important. So let's get to it. Alright guys, first of all, I have a basic world, some collision shapes for the floor and the walls, and the first person player controller, and the light. The first thing you need to do is create a UI that you'll want to be displayed in the 3D view. So you could do that here, then close that. Then let's make a new scene, make it a 3D scene. Could name it display panel, display panel, and then you need to add a viewport. Add the UI here, the display panel content, and you need to set the size of the viewport to the same size as the panel. So in my case it's around right here. Yep, it's 1080p. So let's go back here, display viewport. 1920 1080. And should go. We want to save. Oh, let's save the display panel. Okay. There you go. Jeez, that took a while. Okay, then you need to add a mesh instance and make that a quad. You don't have to do this directly, but it's just for the display. Then you need, here's where it's get confusing. You need to make a material, spatial material, and then go to albedo, texture, and then make it a new viewport texture. Okay, and you have to make it local. So resource to local to scene. So you have to do that, and then you can select the viewport. There you go. And in the viewport you have to, where is it? Rendering. There's a section to flip, vertical flip. So flip that out. There you go. Then another thing you have to do is set the mesh to the you could use a calculator for this, like here. So we have 1080p by 1920 by 1080. So set the default Y scale. So say, let's leave that at 0.5, and it will calculate the X value for us. So 0.88888. You can just round that up to 0.89. So it would be 0.5 and 0.89. There you go. So now it's like, the same ratio as the viewport. So then you add another thing to it here, a touch area, an area 3D. So area, and then you add a collision shape. Make that a box shape, and you have to match it up to the dimension of here. So let's scale it down. Scale that over there. Scale that there. And there's one tricky part. Try to get the view as close to the edge, the front edge as possible. So let's move this back a bit. The reason that can get weird is with the code. It for example, I'm sure if you're looking at it from here and you touch like right there, it will assume you're touching here. If that makes sense, because it converts it to 2D space. So it just feels more natural when you have it right there. So if you touch there, it's actually touching there, if that makes sense. Alright, so next let's just add a collision box, CSG box. This is just to like not make us like walk through it. About that. Alright, so it's like a screen now. Then enable collision. Alright, now for the code, let's pause for a second. Alright, for the code we added to the display panel, new display panel 3D. Okay, so we get a reference to the mesh size. We get the viewport, panel face, touch area. Then we set the mouse variables to get references to the mouse status. So you get the mouse held, mouse inside, and the last mouse position in 3D and the last mouse position in 2D. Okay, so on ready, you get the touch area, connect the mouse enter to to check if the mouse is inside, set it to true. Okay, so we're handling the event, the mouse event here. Sorry for the jump, but so input event, create a variable if it's a mouse event. Then for mouse event in the array, if it's either one of these, then tell it that it's a mouse event and set it to true. So if it is a mouse event, we're gonna handle the mouse event, and I'm gonna jump to that code next. If it's not, just pass the regular event to the viewport. If event is a mouse event, then set mouse held to event first. Okay, so we create a new variable to get the mouse position in 3D space. So I'll make that later. And then you check if the mouse is inside and if the mouse position in 3D isn't equal to null. If the mouse is inside, you use touch area global transform affine inverse times the mouse position 3D to flip the position. This basically keeps track of if it's scaled or moved around or while it's running. Then set last mouse position 3D to position 3D. Mouse position 3D. Else set the mouse position 3D to the last 3D mouse position. If it's null, then set it to vector 30. Okay, so now we have to convert this mouse 2D position to match up with the viewport dimensions. Let's go over this. So first we create a new variable, mouse position 2D, then use the 3D position of the X and Y value, or the negative Y value, and then you increase the mouse position 2D by half the mesh size. Then that same number now you divide it by the total mesh size. Then that same number again you multiply it by itself and the viewport size, and then that gives you the position in the viewport space, and then you add it to the position of the 3D of the event. Okay, so now we check if the event was a mouse motion event. If the last position 2D is equal to null, then set the event relative to vector to 0, assuming there's no motion. And then else, the relative mouse position 2D is minus mouse position 2D, last mouse position 2D. And then you set the last mouse position to the current mouse position 2D. Then just send the event to the viewport. Okay, let's go over the find mouse. Okay, so first we get the camera from the viewport, then we set the ray length to 1. 1 should be fine. That's pretty much enough for the distance of the screen. And then the from position would be the start position, so it would be the ray origin from the camera using the event's global position, and then it goes towards the camera. The camera is normal by the length times the length, Then the result would be the get world, direct space date to intersect ray, the from position and the to position, and the exclusions. There's nothing here to put, so we use the touch areas collision layer. You tell it to not collide with don't collide with bodies, but collide with areas. And then if the result size is greater than 0, that means we get a collision. Then we return the result position. Else, just return null. Okay, so let's add it to the world. Put it anywhere you want. Make sure it's about the height of the player. Test it out. No. What did I break? Okay. And put. Oh, I didn't set the mesh size. Okay, here's their this is what I made. So the way I set the panel size is I already tell what Y scale do I need, and then I get the collision shape for the touch area. Then I get the width and height of the viewport and the scale. Then get the difference between the width and the height. That's by a percentage. Then I get the X scale by dividing the Y scale from the difference. And then I apply it to the mesh size, the X and Y values. Then the touch area, the shape from the collision shape. You can get the extend. That's the actual size of the shape itself, and then set it to vector 3 of half the width and the height, and then give a arbitrary, well, it's not really arbitrary, that's the depth, so I just put 0.05. Okay, I may have broken something. Oh. Right here. The input. Here. And is insert or is mouse held. Sorry about that. Okay guys, there you have it. You can interact, you could type, subscribe. Can't spell subscribe. And then this value here changes to between 1 and 100, 0 and 100. So press it to there, and I set it to clear. Then I press escape, get away. So on my controller, I have the escape button to give me control to my mouse, and then stop moving, so I can't control my character and all that. That's just code that I did myself. So that's about it. So you could make like displays with this, like of the video, a big video playing somewhere. What else? Text, blah blah blah. You see what I just did? This I need to figure out, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Sometimes it's still active after, if I, go back to my view like this. But it's still typing. That's just code. I could do a check to like disable having that active. And if it's blank, it goes back to the default text. You can scroll too. Alright, some caveats. Let's go to the... Let's close this for now. Some caveats. So the viewport is basically, if you have the size of it, whatever size you have the viewport as, you have to have the panels like the panel, like the main panel to be the same size or smaller. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it has to be smaller. And yeah, next thing is go back to the panel. The mesh should be the ratio of the display size, the panel size, the viewport size, sorry. So like if you have in this case I had it as 0.5, that has to be the ratio of, you know, the X value. And then in the collision shape, I have, this doesn't have to be the exact size, but it helps to make it the same. So I have it as half those half the ratio of the panels, half the ratio of the mesh size, half the mesh size, and just 0.5 the area. Alright guys, that's it. Like, subscribe. Not sure when I'm gonna make another video, but I'll try. Maybe I do 2D like objects in the scene now, you know, like probably a health bar, stuff like that you can see in the enemy. I'll do that next. Alright guys, take care.